Welcome to another Apollo Papyrus podcast episode. I am Aaron Apollo Camp. For this episode, my interview guest is the founder of Fireball Unlimited, and she is the author of the book Rudy Me, as well as the screenplay for its short film adaptation. Her name is Brittany Lenny Gilbert, and my interview with Brittany will follow the note-taking sounds. Brittany Gilbert, welcome to the Apollo Papyrus podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Feel free to introduce yourself to our listeners.
Wow, my name is Brittany. I'm an author and a filmmaker, and I try to tell stories that connect to people and help people to make positive change.
You founded a company called Fireball United. What is Fireball Unlimited? Thank you for correcting me. You founded Fireball Unlimited. What is Fireball Unlimited?
Well, I came up with the name because for Fireball, I wanted it to describe my ambition, and the unlimited part is the unlimited possibilities that I see for myself.
Your book is called Rudy Me. Without spoiling too much about your book, Rudy Me, what is it about?
Well, the book is about this 12-year-old girl. She's having some difficulties at home. And so she goes to stay with her grandma during the summer. And her grandmother developed Alzheimer's. And, she learns how to take care of her grandmother in that process.
You turned Rudy Me from a book into a short film, and you were the screenwriter for the Rudy Me film. What was it to turn your own book into a short film?
Wow. It was really interesting. I was able to take, the whole book and break it into, a film, which took about 3 or 4 months to write. I wanted to make sure that I captured the most important parts of the story.
What are some lessons you hope that readers of the book and viewers of the film learn from Rudy Me?
I hope they learn that Alzheimer's is something that can happen to anyone. It doesn't matter your race, your religion. Alzheimer's is also something that it takes a community. You need the people, your family, friends, caregivers to really help, that person who has it, and the people who are helping a loved one with Alzheimer's to cope with what they may be going through.
I'm going to pivot to away from your writing work for one question, and I'll go back to that. What do you have any personal real life experience dealing with relatives or other loved ones who have Alzheimer's? And if so, what is it like to deal with that?
Yes, actually, the book Rudy Me was inspired by my grandmother, who had Alzheimer's herself, and going through that experience. I was a lot younger. I was about 12. And so I really didn't understand what it was. And so once I became older, I wanted to write a book that kind of explained it in a way that a 12 or a 10-year-old could understand what it was and what was going to happen to their loved one who had Alzheimer's.
How long did it take you to write the book Rudy and Me, and how long did it take you to write the screenplay?
It took about maybe 3 years to write the book. I did a lot of research. I talked to other people that were caregivers and, people that work, work with people who had Alzheimer's. And took about 3 years to do the book and about 4 months to write the script.
How did you approach writing the screenplay for Rudy and Me differently than how you approached writing the book?
Well, the first part is the format. The format of a screenplay is a lot different than a format of a book. So, of course, I had already taken film classes and screenwriting classes. So I was pretty familiar with that. But my approach from book to film was just making sure that I captured the important parts of the book and make sure that, for people who may prefer the book, they get all the details, but for people who prefer the film, they still get the important parts of the story.
Is the book Rudy and Me independently, traditionally, or hybrid published?
I did self-publishing. I would like to get a traditional publish for my next book, but I did enjoy doing the self-publishing process.
Do you plan on writing more books, producing more films, or both? And if so, what are some ideas you have for projects that you have in mind?
Yeah, I do plan to do a lot of books, a lot of films. My next story, not to give away too much, but it's just about someone who loses everything and they have to rebuild their lives. And I think that that's kind of relevant to, a lot of what's going on with the climate change and the fires in California. A lot of people are having to start over from scratch. So, like I said earlier, I try to write stories that are relatable to people.
You have cerebral palsy. How does that affect your daily life? And are there any kind of special accommodations that are needed for you to be able to write books and screenplays?
I actually have cerebral palsy. It doesn't have a lot of an effect. I'm very, very blessed. I'm very independent. I work out twice a week. I think for the most part, it might be my speech, and I may get a little tense in my muscles from time to time, but for the most part, I'm pretty independent. When it comes to writing my scripts and my books, I don't need any special equipment. I just use a regular laptop.
What is the best advice you have for people with disabilities, whether they be physical disabilities or other types of disabilities, who want to write books?
To be patient with yourself. Writing, and this is not just for people with disabilities, but anybody that wants to write. Writing is a process. It's a marathon. You can't approach it as if, oh, I'm going to write a bestseller next week. Some people can do that, some people cannot. But the best way to approach it is to just take your time, start with something that you already know a lot about. For me, I knew a lot about Alzheimer's, so I started with what I knew, and I took it from there.
I actually have another question in this interview. Your name is Brittany Gilbert, but you also have the nickname Lenny, Lenny. How did your nickname come about?
Oh, wow. My nickname came about in 2009. I had suffered a cardiac arrest, which is another form or another term of saying heart attack. And I had a heart attack, and the next month I had another heart attack. So the name means strength. And so for me, that word strength, it means a lot to me, and it describes me as a person.
Brittany, thank you for appearing on the Apollo Papyrus podcast. You were an amazing guest and a wonderful person to interview.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate your time.
Brittany was a fascinating and insightful guest to interview. This is Aaron Apollo Camp reminding y'all to find your writing and reading purpose. Bye for now. This podcast episode is intended for the private listening of our audience. Any reuse or retransmission of this podcast episode without the express written consent of the podcast host is prohibited except under fair use guidelines. Royalty-free music and sound effects obtained from https://www.zapsplat.com.